talking to the group here, what I would hope would be positive news is that the Department of Defense is still actively working to identify unaccounted for servicemen from the Korean War. Most recently, last week, or just most recently, they announced that they had identified their 700th U.S. servicemen, giving some families that closure that they never had after all these years. What, and whoever would like to speak at any time, when you hear something like that, what is your reaction, having served in the Korean War? What is your reaction to that they're still identifying U.S. servicemen from the war?
Well, during the one winter there, we lost some of the men, frozen and stuff. It wasn't something where they were wounded or anything. But I hear now that the North Koreans once in a while would call us and let us know that they found a body or something, and that would help us, and we do the same. But it was very hard at that time when they overpowered us or something. We had a rear guard action or something, and we lost some of them. Where they went, what they did, were they prisoners, were not, we didn't know. So we had really no real record at that time until they start really investigating and found some.
Yeah. Knowing how much combat you went through,
Yeah, well, we got dead all over the place. There's a lot of digging going on still today. A lot of the bodies have been put into a place called the Punch Bowl. The Punch Bowl, and also they call it. I think they call it the Punch Bowl in Hawaii, where they have bodies. So that's where I think that's where they're exhuming those bodies now, right? They're still digging in Korea, but they're finding skeletons and bones, and the DNA takes so long, and they're finding that most of them are South Korean. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands civilians and rock soldiers who were buried in that earth. So it's kind of hard to distinguish who was. And now they say there was 36,000 killed. They never say how many others. I can tell you because I have that on my newsletters.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we lost what, 52,000 ground troops?
Yes. They have it.
No, we lost 36 actually dead. Right. There was more, of course. There was more, even after the war. But during the war, there was 36 American. Now you take all those countries that were, part of the police action that came,
The
and
so-called police action.
are buried there. So we really don't know how many
Cops were there.
thousands actually. Right.
so it's kind of a tricky answer, as to.
I wanted to comment on what you had said before about we had the commanding officer of the air group on the USS Lake Champlain. He was in charge of all the squadrons and so forth. He was a World War II pilot, a Navy pilot, crashed and burned. His face was totally disfigured, but they kept him on active duty, and he was in Korea and he was the commanding officer of our ship, of the air group on our ship, and he was fierce.
Yeah, I bet.
He was fierce.
What could be said? Sorry, go ahead.
Richard E. Cronin was a pilot.
That's our group.
Huh?
That's our chapter.
Not chapter was named after him. Right, he was a pilot, lost control of the aircraft, crashed into a mountain with a napalm bomb on aboard. They never recovered the body. Probably even the bones go burnt up.
Yeah.
What can be said, gosh, 70 years after the armistice was signed, what can be said about the camaraderie between Korean War veterans like we're seeing here today? Is that still tight? Is that still something you all take?
We have,
We fought
we have
for our
something in common. We're old.
We fought for our country, but we each fought for each other.
Right, and we were proud to do it, and it was an honor to serve our country. So we stick together.
You
know-
said that you were in the Navy, as I was, but I wasn't drafted. I enlisted. The reason that I enlisted is a funny story. I wasn't doing too well in high school, and my father said to me, he said, "Son," he says, "if you don't graduate with your class, the next day you're going to find yourself in the United States Army." Well, I knew he wasn't kidding because my father was the head of the draft board. So the next morning, I took myself to downtown Boston, raised my right hand, and enlisted in the Navy.
You know, after all these years, does it give you hope that they're still trying to identify? Does that mean something to you guys?
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. You know, I was new in Korea, and I was putting on guard duty 50 clicks from the base camp. And I was there with a phone and my carbine, ammunition, and I was going from 9 until 11. And about 10 o'clock at night, I get a call. We got a red alert. That means enemy movement in an area. Stay put. We'll pick you up on the way back. So that was 2 days and 3 nights. And all I had was a candy bar, okay, and a canteen of water. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't see my hand in front of me. Sometimes when the moon wasn't there, it was dark. And I made up my mind. I said, look, I'm not going to get captured. I'm not going to be a prisoner. I'll take anybody with me, but I'm not going to go be a prisoner of war. And I made up my mind.
How common was it for the men that you served with in the thick of things to not make it home or be taken captive? How many times did you see that throughout your service in Korea?
So we had a problem. We used to go out on patrol every so often. I had a squad, and 2 of them got hit, and we were very close with them. I had them for about 4 months, and then all of a sudden they attacked. The mortars started coming over, and 2 of them got hit and didn't make it. And we all felt terrible about it. Usually we get hit with an ambush or something, but this was mortars coming over. And that was, they killed a lot of civilians too at that time. And I cried. I actually cried because even the civilians, they were farmers, and they had 8 people in a field plowing. And the mortars were coming over. We were yelling at them to, take cover. And after about 15 minutes, they play tricks, the North Koreans. They mortar you, and then they attack, but then they don't. They just mortar you, keep you on your toes or something. And all 8 were gone. With the oxen and everything, they were gone. I cried like a baby, and that's the same day I lost 2 of my boys on going out on patrol. Then I had 2 new people, and they were good. We didn't lose anybody after that, thank God. But I saw some we never got back to because they attacked us. And I don't know if they died or, it was during the winter and it was cold. They get buried with snow. You don't know what happens to them. They could be missing. They could be dead. You don't know until later on.
Same sentiment, kind of an unknown out there. I mean, one day you're with a unit and then you don't know what happened to the fellas?
180 men in my company. After 2 days, we whittled down to 49.
Still remember that to this day.
So when I see that book and I see two guys, I'm so happy that at least their family has closure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think back now and I got tears in my eyes.
Well, we owe you a debt of gratitude, first of all. So here's my question. You know, as we sit here, what's the hope? What do you hope continues to happen? I think we could all agree you want to see more servicemen accounted for from the Korean War. What are your thoughts on that? What do you hope moving forward? Because as it stands right now, there's no formal diplomatic relations with the North Koreans, and that provides a challenge.
They're notifying us once in a while, the North Koreans, because we notify them that they found bodies or they do have missing in action, but they were prisoners. But they were recorded as missing in action, and yet we got them back at the end. So we at least found some of them that were considered missing in action, and that was a good start. And that's what happens all the time. That's war.
Sometimes you feel like you want to live, but you don't care if you die anyway. You see some stuff that you can't think about it.
I wasn't afraid to die. Why? Because we were young and stupid. Really, you know, if you would think about this now, it'd be a whole different thought. But when you see these guys and you got close to them, and then they were no longer there, you feel it. You feel it bad.
I'll wait for that phone call to get.
I brought my guys home. I was a squad leader with 12 of us, 6 on a half track and twin half track with a quad 4 machine guns, 50 caliber machine gun, quad 50s, and I had an M19 tank with twin 40s. I was signed out with 2 vehicles, and some of the guys bled, but I brought them all home.
We're thankful for air support. And when they started dropping this napalm and stuff, you could feel the heat. But, you know, some people can get into an accident, they could be further up us and they can get killed. And we're with us no longer.
They say right now the number that the Department of Defense puts on it is about 7,400 still unaccounted for from the Korean War. Do you think that number is much larger, much smaller, right on par?
When I left, there was 2,000, approximately 2,000 MIAs missing.
And it could be missing in action, unaccounted for, believed to have been.
Guys would be buried, you know, by their own buddies, you know, and
Well, I'm
You
surprised
never
that
know.
they haven't found more because the farmland now is not like it was. They have modern modern equipment going through those fields,
rice paddies.
you know, uprooting the earth. I'm surprised that they haven't come up with more bodies. Right.
It's how important is it to put on these shirts now and be together? You know, this many years later, how important is that to you, gentlemen?
No,
Very much so.
It is, it really is.
It's a band of brothers, let's put it that way. Just like
We're a band of brothers.
yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, as I said before, we're dying off. And we've now opened our membership to any combat veteran, combat theater veteran of any war. As a matter of fact, our secretary is a retired colonel in the Army.
Bird colonel.
Full bird.
Bird colonel.
Bird colonel, right.
Billy's a bird colonel.
That's full, that's, I think, equal to a commander in the Navy.
Yeah, it's one
Four
step
stripes.
away from general.
It's equivalent to a captain.
Captain, right,
Yeah, captain.
Four stripes. But we recently had our 35th anniversary reunion, and we asked him if he would lose some weight, put on his dress uniform, and speak to the chapter and our guests. And we asked him to explain to everyone why a young man would join a group of old sailors or old servicemen. And he did a remarkable job. He was absolutely spellbinding. And Bill Millard is his name. And he looked great in his uniform. Great. What group was he with? What the war?
Gulf War.
Gulf War.
Desert Storm.
Question for you, and I noticed your patch, and I've heard the term used, the forgotten war. Do you feel after all this time that it is still the forgotten war?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got a magazine from the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and there's only one item of Korea in the book, and everything about Vietnam, the Second World War.
You know, it seems that when we get a politician speaking to the people or his whatever, and they mention World War II, Vietnam, they skip right over us. I had a funny thing happen with the American Legion. They put out a yearly calendar, and they showed a picture on the calendar of the Korean War Memorial in Washington with all the men going on patrol. And they labeled it Vietnam War. I called them up. I couldn't speak to anybody. I called 3 times. All I wanted was a retraction in the next magazine, that if they're mistaken, they're sorry, and they wouldn't do it. Consequently, I hate to say this on TV, I'm a life member, but I just lost my respect for the American Legion.
Do you hope that milestones like the 700th servicemen to be accounted for just last week and stories like this will bring a little more awareness to Korean War veterans?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We got to get more attention on the news, on the on
We want to thank you for
television.
this. I mean, it's going to be a big help. I mean, whether we get new members or not, at least it's going to bring us to the forefront. Once in a while, we have to do that.
Well, the hope is as well as they can clear that number of 7,400 that are still unaccounted
Yeah.
for.
At least knock it down.
You know, they say we were in a forgotten war, but not if you were there.
Right.
We have a program nationally, the Korean War veterans. It's called Tell America. Now, what each chapter does, it contacts high schools. And most of the high schools in the country have junior ROTC, so forth. It is amazing what these youngsters ask about. And they get, what we do is we get 4 or 5 of us, and we each stand up there for 5 minutes and tell what we did, and then it's open for questions. Kids today in those groups are sharp as tacks. They are terrific, and the country should be proud of them, because I am. We are.
It's an unfortunate thing happened with me not too long ago. I was talking to a young lady, I don't remember when or where, and she says, I said, we were talking about it, and I said that I'm a Korean veteran. And she looked at me, and I said, don't you know about the Korean War? And she said, no. They're not teaching it in our high schools.
That's
So
got to be,
it's
that
sad.
has to be
Sad.
frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
That
Very-
I
very much
can't
so.
comprehend, but I can understand what you're saying.
On the other hand, any one of us can walk into a Publix or any other store and get stopped 9 times. Thank you for your service, sir, because we all wear our caps that say Korea.
Is that you, young man, over there?
That's at 19 years old.
Wow. I'm going to get a close-up picture of that in a minute. I don't want to keep you gentlemen hungry from the snacks for too long.
No. I'm enjoying this.
And, it's tough for me as a journalist sometimes to ask, tough questions that solicit emotion, but I can't imagine this wouldn't be emotional. But if you as men that made it back could talk to the families that still have family members, extended family members that weren't accounted for and didn't make it back, what would you say to them and how they could hold out hope that one day they will get that final closure? Right.
That's a tough one.
It is. It is.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
What would you say to
I
wife
think
or
they would
mother?
say, I think they would think, well, how come you didn't make it? How come you made it and my husband or boyfriend or whatever didn't? That's tough. That's tough.
There was a time in college, the professor says, I wonder what goes through the mind of the guy that's wounded and what goes through the mind of the guys holding him and crying. And I raised my hand. I says, the guy that's crying saying, or the guy that's wounded saying, how come it's me and not you? And the guy that's crying saying, I'm glad it's you and it's not me.
I think that goes through every veteran's mind, how lucky he is. As far as I'm concerned, among these heroes right here, I was not in the combat area, and I did my job. I did what I had to do, and but I love these guys. They're terrific. They're like brothers, and we are brothers.
What have I'll give you the final word? What have I missed that you feel is important that people should know? Here we are in 2024 about this subject, about the unaccounted for servicemen that they're still working for, or anything. What else would you like to say about that? Yeah.
We didn't fight a forgotten war.
People should be told about what went on in Korea as far as missing in action and so on, but they don't publicize it enough. Every other war is publicized. They have everything, but
Right.
these poor guys, they weren't publicized at all.
Well, you got to understand that they had a lot of motion pictures about Vietnam, of World War II. I think there was 2 or 3 pictures of Korea, which were very short.
Mm-hmm. We were forgotten.
All I know is they had one episode yesterday, I think. It was on TV.
It wasn't a war.
About the,
I tell you, I went to the VFW when I got out, and they thought, you can't join. It wasn't a war.
yesterday they had a
Today they're looking for us. Today they're looking for me, or them. I wouldn't join.
Everybody here's in their 90s, correct?
I'm the youngest.
He was the youngest,
I'm 90.
I'm the oldest,
and I'm next.
How,
94.
94. And he's 94 by
2 weeks.
2 weeks younger than me. He's a kid.
How old are you, Phil?
I'm a youngster. I'm 92. There's another youngster. He's 92.
Yeah.
that's kind of the average age of where we are now with Korean War veterans.
That's right. So it's like the hell with it.
We we
No,
still,
nobody wants to know about it,
we still do fundraisers, as old as we are. We give X amount of dollars to the AV, the Fisher House, a lot of other places. Now, I had a meeting with my board, and I suggested, if we are going to have a fundraiser again, I think we should give, they only asked for $250 for the St. Jude, for the kids that got cancer, and $250 for the Shriners, for the kids that are born. And they agreed, and we're going to do that.
Fundraising still at the
Yeah.
core with you guys. Well, as a Navy veteran, I'm going to make sure that the Korean War veteran story is told, and we're thankful for you gentlemen.
Yeah, they showed us this yesterday. They had a Korean 1 hour is the only thing they kept showing it and showing it. But that's the only information people were getting. And like you said, the Navy suffered there too. Oh yeah. And
Fire and ice.
it's too bad that Lee wasn't here.
My ship lost only one person. This is, in a way, it's kind of funny. We were crossing the equator. It was hot as heck. So the captain said, take your mattresses. We called it a different name, mattresses. And take it up to the flight deck, and you can sleep on, everybody can sleep on the flight deck. So we did that. The following AM, we had muster, and everybody had to be accounted for, except one guy disappeared over the night. To this day, I've never heard of anything about him. He's just gone.
Hope he wasn't a sleepwalker and walked up.
He walked off the ship.
Or he got on the wrong side of somebody else.
we were overrun, I have a good boy, he died recently, Jerry Curson. He was in artillery for the 2nd Division.
He was one of us.
Yeah. And I met him in Korea, in fact. Anyway, they were overrun, and he told me, he was a very quiet man, and he said, about missing in action, 3 of them were gone. They don't know if from the artillery, they overran the artillery. And if they were missing, they took them prisoner, they didn't know. So there's 3 that are on the list probably.
There was Triple Nickel that was overrun. The 1st Cavalry was overrun.
Yeah,
In fact, the Court General Dean,
yeah. They lost their colors. They were sent back to Japan.
7th Division lost their colors.
Yeah, they were sent back to the 3rd Cavalry.
The term lost colors, does that mean they were overrun?
Yeah. Okay. When you lose your colors, in fact, the 1st Cavalry was still in Korea when we left, and they stayed in the Yosao Pact, which is Japan, and they were be the first ones. Any battle in the Pacific, they would be the first ones there.
Whoa.
The 1st Cav.
We were the first ones there.
Yeah,
we went 30 days
No, I'm saying
before we got any help
that's
from them.
after the war. After the
Oh,
war.
after the
My division was the 25th. We went to Hawaii, and we became the spearhead of the Sour Pack, and we were the first ones in Vietnam.
Before I forget, may I just, and one by one, your first and last name and how you spell it, so I can have all of that, and also your rank and where you served when you were in. I'll start with you.
Herb Derrick, Sergeant, 1949, 1953.
Army, sorry.
Army.
Army, sorry, got it. How do you spell your last name?
Dareff.
EFF. HERB?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Salvatore D'Angelo, Salvatore, capital D apostrophe, capital ANGELO. Corporal, 1953 to 1955, United States Army.
Where you from?
I was from Middle Village, Queens.
Oh, Brooklyn, New York.
Same, Brooklyn, New York. Okay. My name is Phil Braverman. I was a staff sergeant there. I had my own squad. And I was there in 51 to 54.
And how do you spell your last name?
Braverman.
And is the first name common spelling?
Phil.
Phil?
Yeah.
Neil Mitchell, Everett, Massachusetts, suburb of Boston. I had 2 hitches in the Navy, and I was in Korea. My ship was in Korea, 1952 to 1954. And Mitchell is the last name, Mitchell.
What was your ship when that was over?
USS Lake Champlain, CVA 39, Essex class carrier.
There it is. You had a different route, as we've talked about. You were in the...
Yeah, I ended up in Europe, in France. I was trained as a combat medic, but when I got there, I became a pharmacist. My name is George Perlman, George Pearlman, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Gotcha. Out of New York. Where are you
I
from?
was born from
Everett, Mass.
Massachusetts.
I was born in Brooklyn, but I was raised in Queens.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a large, yeah, okay. Gentlemen, thank you.